Hello, listeners and/or watchers. Welcome back, or welcome to the Night Shift volumes, where I read stories from a Reddit thread that asked, "What's the creepiest thing that's ever happened to you on the night shift?" Tonight, we have some morgue stories.
Fluorescent buzz, coffee gone cold, mopping the tiles like a story you told. Clock on the wall, stuck at 3:15, but my phone says 2, and the camera's freeze. Night shift things, doors breathe, walls sing, something walks the halls and it knows my name. Night shift things, phones ring, no one speaks. I keep telling myself it's just me on break. Just me, but it's night shift things. Cart down the aisle, moves on its own. Help me in dust on a payphone. Footsteps above, there's no second floor. Handprint and steam on a locked freezer door. Night shift things, doors breathe, walls sing, something walks the halls and it knows my name. Night shift things, phones ring, no one speaks. I keep telling myself it's just me on break. Just me, but it's night shift things. Lights blink out in a perfect row. My name in the intercom. Soft to low. Time card stamp with tomorrow's date. Don't go home yet, scribbled by my own name. Night shift things, doors breathe, walls sing, something walks the halls and it knows my name. Night shift things, clocks spin, keys cling. I keep telling myself I'll be okay. Yeah, I'm okay, but it's night shift things.
The Toe Tag by Stinkpot22. I've worked third shift at county morgues for almost 15 years. Most people assume the dead are the scary part, but they're not. The living are usually worse. Still, there was one night that changed my mind. It was February, snowstorm outside. You know, the kind that muffles the entire world. Silent, soft falling snow. The building was nearly empty except for me and a security guard named Frank. At 2:17 a.m., a body arrived from a nursing home. Female, 87 years old, natural causes, nothing spectacular. I completed intake paperwork, attached the toe tag, and rolled her into cooler number 3. Nothing unusual, nothing spectacular, at least, not yet. Around 3:30 a.m., I was finishing reports when I heard metal scraping, a long, slow sound, like a drawer being pulled open. The sound came from the cooler room. Well, I assumed Frank was in there checking on something, and when I entered, the room was empty, except cooler number 3. The drawer was halfway open. I stared at it. I knew I'd pushed it completely shut. Walked over and slid it closed. As I turned away, something caught my eye. The toe tag. It was lying on the floor. The string had been untied. Not broken, not cut, untied. I remember kneeling down and examining it. The knot had been neat, deliberate, as if someone had carefully removed it. I reattached the tag and left. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It's Frank. "Are you in the cooler?" he says. "No." "Well, then who is?" My stomach dropped. He was watching the security monitors, so I hurried to his office, and on the screen, a figure in a white gown stood in the cooler room, motionless, facing the camera. We both stared at it, and then the figure slowly raised one arm, and the screen went black. Every camera in the building failed simultaneously. When the power returned 15 minutes later, the room was empty. Cooler 3 remained closed. The woman inside still wore her toe tag, but on the back of it, written in shaky blue ink, were 3 words: "Not right one." Nobody ever figured out where the writing came from or what it meant, but the tag had been blank when I attached it. I quit 6 months later, and Frank left the same week. All right, number 2. The elevator to sub-level 2 by at 242 Insanity Clause. Every morgue worker knows the basement stories. Most hospitals have them. Places that supposedly don't exist. Rooms that aren't on blueprints. Elevators with mysterious buttons. I never believed any of it until I worked at St. Augustine Hospital. The morgue sat below. The building had one freight elevator connecting every floor. One night around 1:45 a.m., I was transporting a body from the emergency department. The elevator doors closed. I pressed B1, the morgue floor. Instead, the elevator began descending past it. B2 appeared on display. I frowned. There was no B2. The elevator continued downward. The air grew strangely cold. The lights flickered, and then the doors opened. A hallway stretched before me. Long, dark, concrete walls. There was no signs. There was no doors. Just a single, flickering, fluorescent light far in the distance. I checked the control panel. Now there was a note button labeled B2, a button that I'd never seen before. And that's when I heard footsteps, slow and dragging, coming from somewhere down the hallway. I immediately hit the close the door button. Hit it again and again. Nothing happened. The footsteps continued. Closer, closer. And then I saw someone. A man in hospital gown, bare feet, head hanging unnaturally low. His skin looked gray, the kind of gray you only see in morgues, and he shuffled toward the elevator. I slammed every button repeatedly, frantically. Finally, the doors began closing. Oh my God, just before they shut, the man lifted his head. His eyes were completely black. The elevator shot upward, and when it stopped at B1, I stumbled out and found security. They searched the building. No B2 existed. No records, no floor plans, nothing. The next morning, an older pathologist listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he simply nodded. He said something that I'll never forget. And he says, "How close did he get this time?" I told him maybe 20 feet. The doctor looked relieved. Good. Why, I say. He hesitated. Because everyone who saw him closer than that disappeared. He retired 2 weeks later. I've never ridden that elevator alone again. Number 3. Drawer number 7 at select username 476. There was one drawer everyone avoided, number 7. Not because anything happened there, at least not officially. The rumor began years before I had arrived. Bodies stored in drawer 7 supposedly generated complaints, whispers, voices, shadows. Management blamed imagination. Workers blamed the drawer. And one autumn night I was alone and a storm was rattling the building. At exactly 3:07 a.m. the intercom crackled, "Hello." A woman's voice, soft, weak. I nearly jumped out of my chair. The main office was empty. There's no visitors, there's no staff, and I checked every room and there was nothing. And the voice returned, "Please." This time I recognized where it was coming from. The cooler room, specifically drawer 7. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Faulty wiring, radio interference, anything other than something else. I approached the drawer. The voice whispered again, "Don't leave me here." Every instinct told me to run. Instead, pulled the drawer open. Inside was an unidentified woman who had arrived earlier that evening. She hadn't moved, hadn't breathed, hadn't blinked, yet I could swear her lips were slightly parted. And then I noticed something terrifying, her chart. I said, "Time of death, 3:07 a.m. The exact time the voice spoke. I stepped backwards. The overhead lights went out, complete darkness, and for several seconds I heard breathing, and not my own. Someone else's, right beside me. When emergency lights finally activated, the room was empty except for the body. But drawer 7 was no longer open. It had closed itself. The next morning, investigators arrived. The woman was identified. What shook me wasn't her identity. It was her occupation. She had worked in that same morgue 23 years earlier. And according to retired employees, she'd been the person who started rumors about drawer 7. To this day, nobody likes using it. And every year on the anniversary of her death, the intercom records a brief transmission at exactly, you guessed it, 3:07 a.m. and a woman's voice saying the same 5 words, "Don't leave me here alone." As always, I thank you for watching and or listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and I also hope you have a great night at work.